Hi guys, it's Anthony Picasso, and I chose my thyroid analysis on Newtok, Alaska as my community of choice. A little about Newtok, Alaska. So Newtok is a Yupik Eskimo village located on the Ninglick River, close to the Bering Sea, with village ancestors that have lived on the Bering Sea for more than 2,000 years. Newtok is clustered around 63 homes that are home to roughly 350 people. Newtok, like many other Alaskan native villages, is not accessible by roads and has no running water or sewer pipes, and has no hotels. The only access to the community is by airplane, which delivers basic necessities such as food and water, but sometimes that is hindered due to severe weather conditions. Days can pass without any ability to travel. In addition to severe weather, coastal erosion has the community of Newtok, Alaska, looking for a new permanent home. As the climate began to change, the Ninglick River eroded the land between the river and the community at an alarming rate during the decades following the permanent settlement in 1950. In addition, Newtok sits on top of permafrost in one of the world's largest river deltas, and climate change has accelerated this thermofrost, and it's melting at a rapid rate now, and it's sinking the village, causing floods, erosion, and sinking structures and boardwalks. So the first step of my thyroid identification process, I found 17 possible hazards, but I deemed 5 more severe than the rest. So we could start with technological hazards and threats. Sustainable water facility failure, sustainable sanitation facility failure, energy sources failure, and dam failure. Um, the sustainable water, Newtok does not have any sustainable water. That treatment center got washed away with erosion. Same with the sanitization facility. They use honey buckets for the last decade or so, and that is how they use the bathroom. Natural hazard and threats: thawing permafrost and erosion, earthquakes, epidemic, floods, volcanoes, tsunamis, landslides, wildfire, and severe weather. Man-made hazards and threats: oil spills, wildfire, transport accidents, and terrorist threats. The 5 I selected threaten the subsistence, activities, health, safety, and infrastructure services of the community. Newtok relies on the migratory birds, hundreds of thousands of caribou, some of the world's largest salmon runs, and a large portion of the world's marine mammals as their source of food. And as the sea ice is melting, they can no longer get to those sources of food, and the animals are no longer following their normal migratory path. All right, giving the threats and hazards context. All right, thawing permafrost and erosion. Thawing permafrost and erosion has increased flooding risks and caused the land around their homes to crumble and sink. The community landfill has washed away, fuel storage tanks lean precariously, and some houses have already been torn down because they were in danger of collapsing. Erosion is a process that involves the gradual wearing away and transportation and movement of land. However, not all erosion is gradual. It can occur quite quickly and result of a flash flood, coastal storm, or another event. There are 3 main types of erosion in Alaska: coastal erosion, riverine erosion, and wind erosion. And all 3 of these types of erosion are happening at Newtok, Alaska, or Newtok right now. It has been estimated that the community of Newtok loses around 33 feet of land a year from erosion itself. Floods and erosion kind of go the same thing, but floods affect 86% of the 213 Alaska villages, and Newtok is at the top 5 of that list. According to a 2003 report by the U.S. Government Accountability Office, flooding is Alaska's most common disaster, costing the state in excess of $1 million annually, major disruptions to society, and occasionally the loss of life. There are 9 distinct forms of flooding in Alaska: rainfall runoff, snowmelt, coastal storm surge, ice jam, flash, groundwater, fluctuating level lakes, and glacier outbursts. Floods frequently leave homes abandoned in Newtek as the boardwalk's connected structures submerge, and it's progressively getting worse. My third threat and hazard in context will be earthquakes. So an earthquake is a sudden motion or trembling caused by a release of strain accumulated with or along the edge of the Earth's tectonic plates. Approximately 11% of the earthquakes occur in Alaska, making it one of the most seismic active regions in the world. 3 of the 10 largest quakes in the world since 1900s have occurred here. Earthquakes of the magnitude 7 or greater occur in Alaska on the average of about once a year. Magnitude 8 earthquakes average about 13 years between events. Severe weather. The majority of the disasters in Alaska relate to severe weather, storm-driven winds and waves flood and erode coastlines, and also drive large chunks of sea ice inland, destroying buildings near the shore. During weather months, blizzards may form anywhere in Alaska, forcing people to shelter in place. Low-pressure cyclones develop in the Pacific Ocean and expand their energy in the Bering Sea and Gulf of Alaska, where warm and moist air meet the cold in the Arctic. Volcanic eruptions. Alaska is home to more than 40 active and common site in South Central and Western Alaska, and can erupt at any time, and often without warning. Volcanic eruptions also bring in the secondary hazards, including ground deformation, mud flows, landslides, and possible tsunamis in ocean floor volcanic eruptions. And the community of Newtek is surrounded by 10. There's 5 to the south and 5 to the east. Step 3, establish my capability targets. A thing I want to describe first, I mentioned the community center as a shelter for many of these events. And I'd like to give a rundown what the shelter used in Newtek is. Like many Alaskan villages, the community center serves as a multi-purpose center for the community. The community center serves as a 9,600 square foot evacuation center, a stout structure with $1 million view that could hold the whole village of about 370 people in case of emergency. The Mertarvik Evacuation Center, or MEC, also serves as the village's temporary schoolhouse. In 2017, the Army Corps of Engineers determined that the original schoolhouse could no longer be open. The MEB was built with federal grant money issued by the Obama administration. All right, so capability test target and source required for thawing, permafrost, and erosion. The community of Newtek is no longer a viable community as of February 2020. Relocation efforts have started to Mertarvik, a site 9 miles upriver. It will take 2 years to relocate all of 354 residents. Automated weather observations will help issue timely and accurate warnings that may save lives and minimize property damage. The thawing permafrost is causing roads, pipelines, and building foundations to buckle. Excuse me. While the community is in the process of relocating, temporary structures will be built inland away from the coast. While engineers will determine which structures are no longer safe to occupy, geologists will survey the land and mark hazard zones where residents should use caution and use trees and shrubs and grass to help protect the land from erosion by water. Residents in low-lying areas must be encouraged to use lots of vegetation to help break the power of moving floodwaters and also help reduce erosion. In addition, the community will actively use early warning systems that involve the community at risk, facilitate public education and awareness of risks, effectively decimate alerts and warnings, and ensure there is a constant state of preparedness. The sources required to carry out these tasks are Community Emergency Response Team, CERT, Local Incident Management Team, IMT, network planning groups, innovative readiness training programs, National and Weather Service, Newtok Village Council, community center used as shelter and control center. In addition, many of the community members are responsible and should be involved with emergency preparedness and response for the rural communities. Number 2, floods. An immediate and ongoing response will be needed in the event of a flood within 10 hours of the incident. Local authorities will determine and issue an evacuation alert to higher ground for the 354 residents and identify, recover, and secure medical transport for those injured. Automated weather observations will help issue timely and accurate warnings that may save lives and minimize property damage. The community of Newtok will develop a well-balanced strategy with proper understanding of the flood risks, since this is an ongoing issue, which involves not only examining the characters of past floods, but also looking into possible future situations. The community center will serve as a shelter and is located outside the hazard zone with emergency communication, medical, food, clothing, and supplies on hand. Since the community relies on the locals' responders, continued education and flood preparedness is responsible and is key. Residents in low-lying areas must be encouraged to use lots of vegetation. So the floods and thawing permafrost kind of go in hand with the same sources required in capability target, which as with thawing permafrost, the community members are encouraged to plant vegetation to help break up the floods and hold it in. In addition, the community will actively use the same early warning systems. Earthquakes. An immediate response will be needed within 2 hours of an incident. It is crucial that the responders identify, recover, and secure medical transport for those injured, as well as account for the number of fallen structures and damaged infrastructure, and if needed, get a hold of the National Guard to come and rescue. Automated weather observations will help issue timely and accurate warnings that may save lives and minimize property damage. Residents will practice standard earthquake precautions, such as stay away from glass windows, shelves, and heavy equipment. If indoors, exit the building only after the shaking has stopped, and if outdoors, move quickly away from the buildings, utility poles, and other structures. Residents should avoid fallen power lines and move to higher ground immediately in the case of a tsunami. The sources that are required to carry out these tasks would be community emergency responders, CERT team, local incident management team, IMT, the National Weather Service, NWC, and the community center once again will be used as a shelter and control center. In addition, many of the community members are responsible and should be involved with emergency preparedness and response for the rural community. Number 4, severe weather. The community of Newtok will be alerted within 24 to 72 hours prior to a severe weather event. Emergency services will be on standby for evacuation or rescue. Automated weather observations will be issued in timely, accurate warning, and that may save lives to minimize property damage and identify, recover, and secure medical transport if needed. The community center will be served as a shelter and located outside of the hazard areas. The community will actively use early warning systems that involve the community at risk, facilitate public education and awareness of risks, effectively disseminate alerts and warnings, and ensure there is a constant state of preparedness. The Coast Guard will be notified and be on standby in the case of assistance. The sources required to carry out these risks will be community CERT team, local incident management team, Coast Guard, National Weather Service team, and community CERT. The community shelter once again will be used as a control center. Volcanic eruptions. The community of Newtok has 10 neighboring volcanoes. In the event of a volcanic eruption, immediate response shall be within 1 hour. Account for those injured. Ash clouds are a health risk for children, elderly, and those with respiratory health issues. Automated weather observations will help issues and accurate warnings may save lives and minimize property damage. Identify, recover, and secure medical transport for those injured. The most effective way to reduce exposure